Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about the major scale. I wrote out sort of here the major scale, its triads, and its seventh chords down here. And this is in order to explain a couple things, which I'll get to right now. So the major scale, it sounds like this. Let me just play it for you. Alright, so this is the foundation for a huge amount of things in music. One of the big things, and what I've written here, is the fact that it is the home to all of the sort of typical chords you hear in pop these days. So like, we were talking yesterday about the home chord, the concept of one being the home chord. So my fingers here, this one, right, is the home chord. So essentially, you see the scale up top here, right? And you see that the one note is here, right? And that is C. So the one note here in the chords, in the triads, is the same. And all we're doing to create these chords is actually taking other notes from the major scale and just stacking them on top of whatever the bottom note is. So for C, for example, that first note is C, and this first triad is a C triad. So the difference between those essentially is that note is C, and the C triad would be these three notes all working together to make a chord. So one of the chords I was playing yesterday when I was explaining 2-5-1s was a C major 7th chord. So all that is the 1, 3, 5, and 7 of C major, right? So all of these notes and all of these chords can be played and explained using the C major scale. So why is this so important to know, right? I mean, like, you know, okay, it builds the chords, it builds the scales, but why does that make sense? Why does that work, right? So here's what I'll show you, right? I'm gonna play a few chords that are within the C major scale that are a word that we use is diatonic. Some of you will know that. Some of you musicians will know that, diatonic. If you're not a musician, you don't know diatonic, you're like, what the fuck is that? Then essentially what that is yeah, every single chord, as I was describing those, the way it's stacked, is stacked only with notes from C major, right? I want to reiterate that point there. So here's what it'll sound like. I'll play a little chord progression with just notes from the C major scale, right? So now I'm going to play this on my loop pedal, right? So what this is going to do, what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to play the C major scale over this. Because as I said, all of these chords are diatonic to C major. They are part of that home key, that home chord, C major, right? So C major is that home chord. All these other chords are eventually just leading us back to C major, right? So here's the C major scale. Pretty nice, right? So this naturally sounds sort of beautiful over these chords because they're all diatonic to C, right? So then this can go and beyond just playing the scale, and you can use all the notes in this scale to play whatever combination of them that you would want over these chords, right? So here's the chords again, and this time I'm going to do just a little simple improvisation so you can get a sense as to how you can use some of these notes to create beautiful melodies by yourself. Right? So we just create little fun things with it, right? And so then it becomes up to you to have fun with it, add embellishments, add notes that aren't in C major too, but keeping in mind the C major scale, for example. So that means I'm throwing a little differentness, right? So you can, enough of my blabbing, but you can go on really about it however you'd like to. But knowing this scale is the key in a lot of ways to unlocking, how to solo of progressions, how to create progressions yourself. And I think, if you do write music and you like, or, understand how to read music, this is a great way to look at it, because you can literally see how in these chords, right, it's literally just notes stacked. Like whenever this note starts on a line, right, so every other chord above it, every other note above it is also going to be on the next line, right? And then this next chord, first note is in a space, so every other note after it is in a space, which is really easy to see, really good to understand that it's literally just putting other notes on top of the notes in the scale to create chords. So next video, I'll talk about the major modes and how it relates to each chord, and how each chord essentially has its own scale, and then we can kind of build from there about using scales that aren't diatonic, that aren't in the key of C major, but still being in the key of C major. And then we'll have this whole exploration, and it'll be great. But I hope you liked this major scale tip, and learn your major scales.